All right, in this video, we're going to be making some double V folds using probably different angles for each one. And we're gonna be making some adjustments to those V folds when we create them so that we can start to get a little bit more creative with our pop-ups, okay? So I'm gonna just show you two I've done previously, and then I'll show you how I was able to do these. So let's go ahead and set this aside and talk about your materials. Of course, it's the same materials we've been using all along. You need your visual journal, protractor, ruler, scissors, pencil, some type of glue, a scrap paper, and we are gonna need our watercolor pad again. So it is time for you to go ahead and take out another sheet of paper from your watercolor pad. Just go ahead and carefully tear one of those out. And then you can set the watercolor pad aside. All right, so we need to set our paper up again so that we are measuring out 5 by 8 inch rectangles. So let's do that again. Okay, grab your ruler. If you recall, I'm gonna start by making the first measurement from the side. So I'm turning my ruler, putting the 0 at the bottom, and I am measuring 8 inches to the top, okay? So I'm gonna make one small mark right there at the 8-inch mark. From there, I am going to turn my ruler, and I am actually going to come down to the bottom, and I'm going to measure 5 inches. Okay, so that's a 5-inch measurement. I'm gonna come up to the top and do the same thing. So I'm gonna go to the top of the paper and measure 5 inches. And then what I'm going to do is turn my ruler and connect those two marks together. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from the bottom of the paper up, and I'm going to measure 8 inches. And again, if you need to pause me while you're making your measurements, you should go ahead and do that. That's one of the really nice things about having a video versus just trying to follow along with me in classes. You can pause me here. So if I'm going too fast, pause the video, rewatch it, slow it down, whatever you need to do. Okay, so now we're gonna take, so just again, I just measured 8 inches there. We're gonna take our ruler and we're gonna connect those two marks. So the 8-inch mark here and the 8-inch mark here. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure, it should be in exactly the same spot, 8 inches from the bottom up. I'll turn it this way. Mark your 8-inch mark. Come down to the bottom, starting on this line, line up your 0. You're gonna measure 5 inches. You're gonna come to the top and you're gonna measure 5 inches at the top. Connect those two marks. We're gonna measure 8 inches on this line, lining up the 0 at the bottom, marking 8 inches. Connecting those across. Okay, grab your scissors and you're going to cut out the first 5 by 8 rectangle. So you're going to cut carefully on the line. Set your paper aside. Don't throw it out. You're gonna probably need it at some point, so hold on to it. And you're gonna start with this paper. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold this in half. So I just turned my paper so that it's horizontal or landscape orientation. I'm matching up those edges. Your fold doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it pretty close. You want it fairly precise. Okay, set this aside for a second. Grab your visual journal, and we're gonna do the same thing. Okay. Open that up. Set it aside. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and work on this. So let's get started. We are gonna make some measurements. We're gonna mark at 2 inches and 6 inches along the fold. So I always like to have, I'm right-handed. For me, the way I like to set it up is so that my fold is at my left hand. Remember, the left hand makes the L. And I'm gonna measure 2 inches from the top and 6 inches from the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my ruler up here. And I'm gonna mark 2 inches and 6 inches. Okay. And we'll go, let's see, go ahead and measure these out. Let's go with 1.5 this time. So I'm gonna measure to the 1.5 mark on my ruler. For each of these. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is on this first one, I'm going to sketch out kind of a zigzag pattern. So this is just a guide. This line I drew here is just kind of a guide for me, how far I want to go on the page. So I'm gonna make some sharp zigzags. I'm gonna make one of these wider and longer. It's up to you how you do it. I'm gonna make one smaller one there, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and erase this line. Don't need that anymore. It's just a guide. And leave that like that. For the next one, I'm gonna come down and I'm just gonna draw a wavy line in. Okay, and again, I can erase this. All right, so now what I need to do is I need to measure the angles and decide how big I want these to open up. So 45 degrees is always a nice medium-sized angle. If you can still see that line, you can help yourself put the angle in by using that. Let's put this on top of here so you can see it a little bit better. And taking my protractor, lining this last mark up on the top of that jagged line with those. And I'm gonna go ahead and do a 45-degree angle for this top one. Okay. So I'm not going to go any further than this. I'm not going to come down here and measure is what I'm trying to say, actually. I am going to go into the next step because this is going to work a little bit different than some of the ones we've done. So what you're going to do now is you're going to cut very carefully on your pencil line. You don't want to cut anything off. You just want to cut on your line. Okay, so you're not cutting out any little chunks. You are cutting as carefully as you can on the pencil line design that you made. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my first fold. So I'm using my ruler up against that line. Flip it over, fold it backwards. Okay, so I could potentially leave it like this and pop it out and just have one fold, right? So it could be like that. Maybe it is like that in your final design, but I'm gonna go ahead and do another V-fold, so a double V-fold from the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this back the way it was. And now what I am going to do is I'm gonna think about the angle that I want this one to be. Because I want this to work and be a double V-fold, I'm thinking about the angle I'm gonna fold this at, and it may be pretty different than what I've done in the past. You can also just estimate or come up with a design with your ruler. So that's what I'm actually gonna do on this one. It's gonna be a pretty big fold there. Okay, so I'm gonna stick my ruler up here. I guess I could change it. Maybe I'll change it and make it smaller. I don't know, we'll stick with what I did. I can always make a different one if I don't like it. Gonna flip it. Fold this the other direction. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what this looks like if I pop it out right now. So I'm pressing forward from the back. And, oh, I like this. Okay, so it worked out. I wasn't sure. That seemed like such a big angle, but I think it worked. Okay, so there we go. Let's go ahead and do the next one that has the wavy line. Just to make this easier for myself when I do the next design, I'm just gonna push these back and lay this flat. Okay, so clearly this design, because it comes so low, determines my angle for my next one. So I'm gonna go ahead and move this down here, and I'm not gonna use my protractor this time. I can always measure the angle when I'm done if I'm curious, if I wanna take notes on what the angles were. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop that line in. And then I'll go ahead and start with that, leaving that there. I'm gonna cut on my wavy line. Again, take your time and don't cut any chunks out of the paper. Okay. So I can go ahead and do my fold. flip it to the back. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna decide how big I want this bottom one to be. I think I want it to be about there. So maybe the angles are the same, maybe they're different, and that's okay. They don't always have to be the same angle. So you don't have to have two 45-degree angles. Obviously, you can adjust the size of those. All right, so I'm gonna take this. Flip it over, fold it back. Okay, all right, now let's make these both pop out. So we open it up, take your hand, push those forward. Do the same thing along the bottom. Go ahead and fold it flat down. So it should look like something like this, depending on your angles and your design. Okay, let's go ahead and check our work, kind of see what it looks like. Everything's working. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab our visual journal because we're going to be gluing it inside of here, and our scrap paper and some glue. So remember that we take the front and we turn it over, okay? Always putting glue on the paper that we made the cuts and folds in, not in our journal paper. Go ahead, apply your glue. Remember, less is more, and to make sure that you don't get any glue on the pop-ups or pop-out, whatever you want to call them, pop-ups. Okay, remember that we are going to fit this into the fold. So I'm just going to fold this, fit that right into that fold. Should nestle right into it. And then remember, you can just go ahead and close that and press it into place. Okay, and there we have our next page. So we're seeing how pop-up artists and paper engineers are able to use a simple cut like a V-fold and really change the effect of it by adding just some zigzags or some waves to it, and changing the angles. We're seeing how these all are beginning to look very different from each other based on whether you make a single fold, a double V fold, whether you add a curved or wavy or zigzag line, and depending on what angles you're making them at. So let me pop this guy back out. Come on. So this kind of thing happens sometimes. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Just grab something and gently pull it back out. That happens, okay? All right, so there we go. And we're gonna go ahead and fold this shut. Let it dry like that. That's the other thing, is that if you let it dry long enough while it's folded, that issue isn't gonna probably happen. Alrighty, we'll come back in the next video. If you wanted to, you could have measured these and you could take notes. So this is a double V fold, obviously a zigzag cut, a wavy cut. This started with a 45-degree angle. I did not measure the rest of the angles when I was putting my design in. I just kind of free-handed those. So that's always an option, but you can also take notes if you really liked the way things turned out. All right, see you in the next video.